Hello and welcome back to Ratio Fitness. As promised from my first video, we're just doing a quick little interesting extension from ratio number 1, the AMP ratio. Glucose, as we discussed, glucose enters the cell and gets turned into G6P. This is the first and irreversible step of a cool process called glycolysis. And what happens is the glucose molecule here interacts with an enzyme called hexokinase. It uses ATP, remember, turning ATP into ADP, losing or donating the phosphate, and the glucose picks up the phosphate, and it's now called glucose 6 phosphate. Pretty simple name. A lot of times in this biochemistry realm, they just keep things simple. So even though it's super complicated. Anyway, hexokinase, an enzyme that closes around the glucose and the ATP molecule, the third or gamma or Y phosphate of the ATP with the sixth carbon right here, hydroxyl group of the glucose. Now, this is also referred to as a phosphoryl transfer reaction, where you take the third, and I know I'm being repetitive here, but the third and gamma phosphate gets transferred over from the ATP. That's a full ATP molecule, adenine, ribose, the sugar, and triphosphate. And these little red marks are the high energy phosphoanhydride bonds. Imagine these are like magnets. Have you ever held magnets in between your fingers and you try to squeeze them together, but they won't connect, and they're charged and they're hard to push together? That's the sort of force, that's the sort of energy, I guess they call it free energy release, that these bonds give off. So that's kind of what that is. So anyway, back to the picture. Here we have hexokinase with the binding sites. So the ATP, so the hexokinase takes in an ATP and it takes in a glucose at the binding sites. It then closes around or envelops the two molecules, and water, interesting little fun fact here, the water gets pushed out to prevent any unwanted energy usage. Water and ATP sort of cause reactions, so we don't want the water for this one. Okay, so it closes, surrounds, it bounds the ATP and glucose, it pushes out the water, and then what happens again, the phosphate gets donated to the glucose and they get basically released from the enzyme, G6P, ADP, and there's the two phosphates of the ADP.